Alright, so today's the day. We're going to try and start the Kenworth T600 with a 3406B. I have got my order of batteries, but I'm just going to go ahead and use these two out of the ones I had in the Dynaho, since, you know, that project is on hold temporarily till we get a few things taken care of. So I'm going to get these hooked up, and, you know, it's very important when you're doing this to, if you're not familiar with the wiring, be sure to trace your wiring down before you hook it up, because once you bolt these things on, you know, if they're on wrong, you're going to do a heck of a lot of damage really fast. So you don't want to melt the truck down or catch anything on fire. And don't take for granted just because two things are zip tied together that they're both either positives or grounds. You just never can tell, and especially with this truck. You've seen some of the repairs so far, so it's going to be important that we trace these wires down so we know where they go. First thing I'm going to do is get set up. We're going to get all these connections cleaned up because they're pretty bad. Obviously they haven't had anything on them for quite a while, so let's get something, clean them up. This is my tool of choice for old cruddy battery cables. It's a die grinder. It's what we call an oatmeal cookie. And get them cleaned up real quick. Okay, these jumpers are, well, that one's okay. This one's a little small, but being how we have two positives that go to the starter and two negatives that go to the starter, and this is just connecting the two batteries together, it's good enough for what we're doing. Just trying to get this to start. So now we need to lift the hood and do some inspections under there. Alright, we're gonna pull this filter off here. No idea how long that's been on there. Doesn't look too bad, really. Shoot, it's even loose. You gotta be kidding me. Well, it's dry for sure. Well, let's pour that in a bucket, see what it looks like. Yuck. Some pretty rough stuff. Well, I imagine we ought to just cut this one open. Yeah, let's cut this filter open, see what it looks like inside. Whenever I cut a filter open, I just use a great big tubing cutter, pipe cutter, whatever you want to call it. Alright. Well, it's discolored. Got some crud in there. It's not horrible, but no fuel, so wonder if somebody tried to start this. Wish you had smell-o-vision. Some nasty diesel fuel. Alright, well, got another one coming, so we'll get that filled with fresh diesel and do what we do. Alright, not too many times I actually wear gloves, but when I'm messing with diesel fuel, I always do, because it seems like I can't ever get that smell off of me. Part of the pansy, I guess. Part of that disease I have, cystitis. Alright, so I'm going to fill this up with diesel fuel. Good fresh diesel fuel from my fresh diesel can. And then we'll put it in place. Before I get too far, I want to make sure that the injection pump accelerator rod is free and will actually bottom out because if I go to start this and that thing would happen to be stuck, you know, it'd be wide open. So we'll probably do the same thing over here. Take the line, the inlet off the turbo, have a block ready in case it starts to run away for any reason, and then we can kind of smother it out. So, all right, let's check the oil now, see what we got. It's just a little bit low, so I'm going to wipe that off and check it again. Check it again. Yeah, we're a little low. But I think for the sake of starting this, we're going to call that good. If, you know, I've had many comments when we do these first starts and people are just, you know, besides themselves because we don't change the oil and, you know, change the coolant filter and all that to see if it'll start. I have no idea if this is going to start. That could be an utter and complete waste of time and money on the parts. That if it's got to come apart, I'm replacing it anyways. So this is the way I like to do it. What else? Next, this is where I'm going to take the inlet loose. I'll take this hose loose, pop this elbow off. We'll have a block of wood sitting here ready to go. And I'm looking for anything that might be in the way, you know, like anything down in the fan that's going to crank and you'll crank over and hit, you know, things like that. This had one of those lubrifying filters, whatever they're called. Obviously it has been bypassed, which doesn't really matter to us right now because we're bypassing this filter and the tanks completely because this is old fuel. I don't want to try and run this fuel through this engine and then create problems that we may not have had before. So we're going to get that off next. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is check the turbo. We want to look down in here and make sure there's no traces of oil. You know, like the turbo seal's bad. Oh, that's nice and tight. Well, that turbo's in nice shape. The significance here would be if the seal was bad and we had oil on this side, there could be the potential for the engine to run away. A diesel engine is fuel controlled. It doesn't control the air side. It only controls the fuel. Most of your modern cars control both. They control the fuel by the butterfly and the throttle plate, and they also control the fuel to match the amount of air. In these diesels, at least these ones, what happens is it controls the amount of fuel by the injection pump. If you introduce another fuel source, whether it's engine oil, say that seal was bad and it allowed the engine oil to get sucked down in the intake across the air charge cooler and into the engine, there's nothing to stop the amount of oil that it can suck in. So one of several things will happen. As soon as it starts sucking oil in, or starting fluid, or, you know, whatever the alternate source may be, it will literally raise RPMs as fast as it can and burn that up as fast as it can suck it in there or push it in. And when that happens, the only way to stop it is to stop the airflow from getting in, or it's going to grenade, come apart because the RPMs are so high, because the governor's not going to do anything. It's all going to be, it's out of control. You have no way to meter or control the fuel that's being supplied is a problem. So it's either going to go until it sucks all the oil and burns it and cooks the bottom end because it has no lubrication, or it over revs and, you know, it just can't handle the RPMs and it flies apart, or you know, whatever. I guess there's many other possibilities, but that's why we want to check that. So I don't see any signs of oil in there, so I think we're okay there. We're a little bit low on oil, not horrible. I checked the coolant, it's low. There was a few gallon jugs of empty coolant jugs in the side compartment, so I'm going to expect we have a coolant leak somewhere. Alright, so this is an old lubrifiner fuel filter, and apparently it's either it's bad or leaks or something. Somebody has bypassed it. Never a good idea to bypass a primary filter and not replace it with something. So the two tanks, there's a tank on either side of the truck, they come back basically to a T, and the line comes up right into here, and then what would normally happen is line would come in the filter, fuel would be filtered and come back out, of course, and then go back out on this line. This line wraps around the back of the engine and goes to the fuel filter, or the fuel pump, I mean. It's going to go to the fuel pump. So the fuel pump will be pulling fuel from the tanks through the line, pulling it through this filter, and then over to the pump. And I'll show you the other side where the pump is. So hard to see in here, there's not a lot of room, but that line is right there. It comes into the bottom below here, below the injection pump, and the pump is there, and the pump sucks it through and then pushes pressure up into this line, into our filter housing. Filter housing has a primer handle on it, so you can unscrew this and you can pump it, and what it does is it sucks fuel from the tanks by that hand primer up through the lines, through that pump, and up here to pressurize a fuel system. So then it comes into here, it gets filtered yet again, and then comes out of here and goes into, if you can see, right back in here maybe, it goes in the injection pump right there. So then the injection pump creates the high pressure, enough pressure to spray the injectors, and then what isn't needed is sent back to the tanks on this return line. So what we want to do is we want to take this return line off, and we want to run it into a 5-gallon bucket, because we want to be able to see what kind of fuel is in the system. And then the supply line on the other side, which is easier to get to than the fuel pump, we're going to take this side of the fuel line off and put an adapter in here and run this into our 5-gallon bucket. And we're going to try and get our 5-gallon can of diesel up high so it can help gravity feed to prime it. Alright, so we got our return line set up. I got it going in the bucket. Now we're going to crank it just a little bit. See what it does here. Now that's a good sign. Got a buzzer. The crank's good. Oh, look at that. We got oil pressure. We're going to crank for a little while. See if we got fuel coming out of the return. So we got a little. So we're gravity feeding, but it's going to take a little while to get it all the way through here, because even though we prime the filter and I pump this, then it doesn't mean that we actually got fuel all the way through. So we'll crank this a little bit more. It's good to see we got oil pressure pretty quick too. So we're not going to pump horribly long. Yeah, we just have just a very minimal amount of fuel here, so we're probably just getting what's in that filter. So we're going to have to prime the system a little better, so let me get that done. cool a little bit to do it again. Go ahead. Alright, let's get the charger on it. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. Part of my problem. I got a diesel fuel leak in this fitting, so it keeps sucking air. I'm gonna have to change that out. Alright, so we got good oil pressure, the batteries are not charging. We got a huge air leak. Building air? Yeah, it's trying to build air. Alright. Well, guess we need to find the air leak. Oh man. I can actually feel the air blowing up through here. Jeez. Alright, I'll have to climb underneath there and find that leak. Oh, there's a tank right there. Yeah, it's probably rusted in two. Not too bad. So that's the crud that's coming out. That should stop raining in. Alright, so we're not building any air pressure because we got a big air leak. Let's see if the Jake brake works. It certainly does. Alright, let's check that coolant again. Man, is it running good? I guess that ain't bad for sitting for over 20 some years. She comes right back to life. It has shown some new issues, or some, you know, some things have come to light. One is this fuel line, this suction line, is leaking all over. I mean, it's just saturated through. And of course my fitting's leaking here too, but that's something different. That's just because of my fitting. The air tank back there, it's that tank that's leaking. That's not a big deal. You know, things to be expected. And it didn't try and run away, so I'm pretty happy with that. It was a little bit low on coolant, but apparently now it's my turn to have the hiccups. I was watching Ezra's video this morning, and he was having issues with the hiccups. Now I've got the hiccups. Must be contagious. Anyways, so it was a little low on coolant, but it didn't take a whole lot to top it off. It was just, you couldn't see it in the tank up there. Tank's pretty crusty. I don't know if it's where the coolant may be going, but we'll have to find it. But right now I need to get this handled, get this out of here, and get this back together. The tanks themselves will have to come off and be cleaned out because they're just full of crud. But man, I am pleased as punch. I mean, it runs, and it runs good. I mean, it sounds good. Made excellent oil pressure right away. I mean, it was snapping. You saw when we were cranking it, it was starting to build oil pressure then. Pinch this off now so we don't lose our prime. Yeah, that little bit of time, you see how much fuel we had coming to the return. That's why I put it in a bucket, because I don't want all that nasty crap going back into my fuel. Like a lot of guys, they said, you know, you should run that back into your thing, so into your diesel can, so you're not running out of fuel. You can put the return back in there, and that's true, but I don't want to do it until after I've flushed out all that crap. You know, I don't want to take the crap that we don't want in there and then just, you know, run it right back through, even with a new filter. Again, there's only one filter on this right now. But I'm pleased, man. It runs. I wish it would build enough air pressure that we could try the transmission, but it's just not going to happen. I'd have to back the brakes off, and I really don't want to do that. I backed them off to get a look at them, but I don't want to have to back them off just to move it. Got the batteries charging. I didn't know how long we'd be cranking, so that was fantastic, man. Good old Cat 3406B. You saw I tried the Jakes. They work fantastic. Works very, very good. So, all right, I gotta get off here and go get that diesel fuel line taken care of real quick. All right, so there we have it. The old Cat wants to run. Obviously, after sitting dormant for over 20 years out in the field with a tree growing up through her, she still wants to run. Perfect. I mean, a couple little things, but I mean, it's a long way from running and driving. But I wanted to point this out because if you're not familiar with Ohio rust, you would think this is bad, and all this is just the paint peeling, and the frame underneath it is smooth as glass. You know, I've had enough trucks with real rust. This is just the paint coming off. I don't know if I'm showing it to you. Can't see in the camera because of sunlight, but yeah, look at that. It's that frame is smooth as glass underneath that paint. So this would be a very good one to sandblast and repaint for sure. She's got potential. She's got potential. And don't forget, my wife's doing a video series on the interior, how she details, see if she can get it clean. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. Hopefully the next time we're doing something with this, it'll be doing something with the air tank, so we can, you know, get her around and check the transmission and see how it works and all that. But man, look at that frame. I know I go on about frames a lot, but it's because frames are such an issue in Ohio. These front horn brackets are going to have to be replaced. They're both broken where the toe pins go on. Somebody got a little overzealous trying to move it and broke them. So we'll have to replace both of those, which are the front leaf spring mount as well. But that's okay. I'm going to put the air intake back on so we don't have anything getting into the turbo or water or anything like that. And put our tools away, and that is it, man. If you guys like what we're doing, give us that thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Leave your comments down below and let me know what you think about the old girl sitting for 20 plus years and coming back to life. We got some nice plans for this truck. Hopefully it all works out. Say bye, lady.
Bye, lady.
Alright, there we have it. Where we have it? Yeah.